And we begin the news with a developing story in Rivers State where the House of Assembly has vowed to press ahead with the impeachment process against Governor Siminalayi Fubara and his deputy Ngozi Odu. Lawmakers speaking at a press conference in Port Harcourt and Rivers on Friday, accused the governor of blackmail and said he lacked the trust needed to address the state's ongoing crisis. They also alleged that Fubara and his deputy had infringed on the 1999 Constitution and resorted to intimidating the parliament, leaving lawmakers no choice but to exercise their legislative powers. At plenary, members unanimously voted to investigate allegations of gross misconduct against the governor and his deputy, while 4 lawmakers had earlier called for a political solution, recanted and declared support for the impeachment process. The House also thanked President Bola Tinubu after intervening in the crisis and called on Speaker Martin Amaewhule to reconvene the Assembly.
Against allegations of gross misconduct leveled against His Excellency Sir Siminalayi Fubara, Governor of Rivers State, should proceed to the next level, which is investigation. And by virtue of Section 188, subsection 5, I will ensure that the resolution of this House is immediately communicated to the Chief Judge of Rivers State.
Let's go in depth into the story. Joining us now, later on, will be Biola Festus, who will join us. But for now, we have Todimu Ige, who's live in Lagos and Evans Ufeli, who's joining us from Ontario, Canada. Gentlemen, many thanks. I appreciate you for coming on. Let me start with you, Evans. I mean, from a constitutional standpoint, do the allegations raised by the Rivers State House meet the legal threshold for impeachment under the 1999 Constitution? Evans.
Can you hear me?
Yes, please go ahead.
What constitutes gross misconduct? The law says that it's in the estimation of the House members. It's in their estimation. Okay. It is when the panel is set up by the Chief Judge that the panel will now investigate those allegations by law. Now, if those allegations are plausible, the process of impeachment will continue to the 3rd stage. Okay? But if the panel find out that the allegations are false or untrue, the impeachment process will end there. That is in an ideal situation where there are no influences, where, you know, the intention of the legislature in that part of the law, 188 of the 1999 Constitution, is that it is done with absolute trust, judicially and judiciously. Okay? So if that is done, then the matter will end there if it's false in the estimation of the panel. But if it's not, it will move to the next level. That will be when they will submit their report to the State House, and then the State House will now reconstitute by 2/3 majority, will now vote to impeach the governor.
Right. Let me ask you, Mr. Ige, right? There are 4 lawmakers, they've backed out and now have joined the impeachment train again. There's something we may not be seeing here, but could this be a case with higher political overtone than just legal merit?
Well, yes, you know, for the lawmakers who backed out at a point and later came back, it is within their right to change lanes, but legally, if they feel that the governor has done and the deputy has done what is wrong, I believe as a matter of principle and legal speaking, they should maintain a particular stance. And they are changing lanes at every point in time would only speak to the fact that there might be political undertones, and there might be certain forces propelling their decisions and engineering their perspective in this matter.
Right. Let's circle back to the issues of legality. Do you think that I want to get your opinion as well on the question I asked Evans. Do you think that these allegations that are raised by the River State House meet the legal threshold when it comes to impeachment under the 1999 Constitution?
I align myself strongly with Mr. Evans. He has addressed the issue headlong, and the truth of it is that, as provided for by the Constitution, particularly Section 188, the threshold has been met. And now, it's still an allegation until it is investigated and the governor and his deputy are found guilty. They have alleged that misappropriation of funds, not submitting the budget to the House of Assembly. This all constitutes gross misconduct, and of course, it's still they are mere allegations until the panel sits on it, look into it, hear from the governor, because he has a right of fair hearing. He has a right to do a rebuttal, to respond to whatever allegations they have raised against him. And now, after that outcome, we'll take the next step. But as of now, the current procedure, they have complied and abided by the provisions of the Constitution.
And Evans, to you, is this political? Is there more to it than it meets the eye? 4 lawmakers, they backed out and now they've come back on this impeachment train. What say you, political or legal?
Well, if I were the lawmakers, like Pontius Pilate, I will wash my hand off that impeachment proceedings, because it is orchestrated by politics. It is the interest of one man who has decided to hold that state to captive. Okay, godfatherism is what is playing out here. These lawmakers are loyal to Wike, and Wike has vowed to ensure that Fubara does not return as a governor of that state, because Fubara defected to APC and now have direct access to the president, and have cultivated a very good relationship with the president. And that is why Wike is all over the place saying agreement is agreement. The agreement is referring to was the one that was put before Fubara, before his reinstatement, after the state of emergency, that took him down for 6 months. Okay? And now he is having a good relationship with the president. It is looking like he might win the heart of the president and still return again. And Wike does not want that to happen. So that is exactly why the State House is orchestrating this impeachment. If not, if you look at the law, they say budget is spending from budget and whatsoever. The same constitution made provision for a governor can spend from previous budget within 6 months of the second year before that budget is ready. You understand? All the allegations, many of those allegations have no weight whatsoever. There's nothing Fubara will do that house will not question. Even if he presents a budget today, they will tell him that why is he presenting a budget? There's an existing budget already that was passed by the former administrator. So there's nothing he would do that as long as the State House of Assembly does not have a mind of its own, as long as it's being swayed by the influence of godfatherism, it will not be able to think for itself and the rest of that.
Evans, I can't help it, right? Because the picture you just painted for me is the picture that feels like a polygamous relationship, right? The husband is about to marry a new wife. The first wife isn't having it, and that's how it comes out to me. But at this point, isn't this a bad look for the APC and the president? How is he folding his hand to watch his new wife being ridiculed in this way?
Well, that is because he has failed to address the issue the way he should address it.
How should he address it?
By now, he should let Wike know whether Wike is with APC or PDP and what he intends to do, because the president have a greater chance with a sitting governor than Wike, who is not a governor. Okay, so because with the resources that is the disposal of Fubara and the rest of that, and with the support of the president, he can run Wike out of River State. Okay, and then the president can run him out of his cabinet. So he should behave himself, and then the Constitution already provided that you have you can do a second term after you've done the first term. 4 years of 2 terms. Okay, and the Constitution says that if any agreement, law, or whatsoever is contrary to the Constitution shall prevail, and that other agreement, law, whatsoever, back to the essence of its inconsistency shall be void. So if they enter into any agreement, and that agreement run contrary to the Constitution, it is what the Constitution says that will prevail. That agreement is subsidiary, is inferior to the Constitution. So Fubara do not need to keep that agreement because he negotiated from the point of weakness when he was out of office and needed to go back. And they put him on the spot to do what he did. He can actually turn around the whole thing again because the Constitution says he has the right under the law to go back.
Right. Let's look at the due process of this impeachment proceeding, shall we? And let me come to you, Mr. Todimu Ige. We know that after the first initial pronouncement for intentions to move on impeachment proceeding, they take another 1 week, and afterwards it goes to the courts, which they will now institute a panel. But just help us, due process steps must be followed to ensure that this impeachment does not collapse in court later on. What should those due process steps look like, for the sake of our viewers? Mr. Tobidi, if you Todimu.
Yeah, sorry, I'm struggling to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Your voice is very low.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
It's very low. Yes.
Okay. I was asking about the due process steps that must be followed to ensure that this impeachment does not collapse in court or later on.
Okay, well, as provided for by Section 188 of the Constitution, it says that a two-thirds of members of the State House of Assembly must pass the motion. A panel must be constituted, a panel of 10 members who are not politicians, who are not members of, who are not civil servants, must sit down and adjudicate and listen to the president. If they find the governor guilty of the allegations of gross misconduct and whatever, they would pass the outcome of, and of course, this period, as stated in the Constitution, must not be more than 3 months. Now, having gone through the process, they should now pass their findings back to the House, and the House will make a pronouncement on it. So that's the procedure. And of course, it is important to state it at this point that the procedure of the Constitution must be followed. And it's very clear that any variation from any of these steps would nullify the proceedings.
Nullify the proceedings. Now, very quickly, let me bring in our correspondent, Biola Festus, who's been following this story live there at the capital, Port Harcourt of Rivers State. Biola, first of all, what's the mood like, and where are you at the moment?
Take that again, Judith. Yes.
Yeah, Biola, I was asking about the mood in Port Harcourt at this time, and also where you're at.
Okay, well, just after the notice, just after the House reconvened and made it clear that they were not backing down on the procedure to impeach the governor, many stakeholders have started speaking out. At this venue I am, there are some civil society groups who had come forth to condemn it. Earlier on in the week, we had some poor lawmakers come to say they were pleading for their colleagues to tamper justice with mercy. But just today, those same poor lawmakers also had a briefing to say they had pleaded with the governor to consider his position. They had pleaded with him to make peace politically with the House, but the governor appeared unyielding. So they also turned back from what they had earlier, from their earlier stance, to say they were realigning with their colleagues to continue the impeachment of Governor Fubara and his deputy. Well, one of the civil society groups, and of course an activist who has been vocal about this matter, is here, Oscar Xavier Miabe. Thank you. Earlier in the week, some residents of the state thought peace had returned, owing to the fact that 4 lawmakers came forth to say, okay, let's follow this peacefully. Now that the entire House is back on this same track, what takes?
At this point, we sincerely see this as a pure political witch hunting, and another means orchestrated by Barrister Nyesom Wike to destroy or to disrupt governance in the state. Nyesom Wike does not want anybody to do better than him, because when he was the governor of Rivers State, he performed poorly. He performed in a very poor manner. There was nothing that Nyesom Wike achieved as a governor of the state. And today, we have seen that it's concentrated on governance. Ever since he became the governor of Rivers State, we have a lot of achievement that can actually be used to supersede Nyesom Wike achievement. As we speak at this point in time, Nyesom Wike has actually decided to put in the assembly. We are aware. These were some of the things we said earlier before now. In 2023, in one of our also appearances like this, we made it clear to the people of Rivers State that the reason why Nyesom Wike is in charge of the assembly, is in charge of the deputy governor, is in charge of the commissioners, is in charge of the local government chairman, was because these were architects or these were processes that Nyesom Wike wants to use to destabilize governance in the state. These were also another means that Nyesom Wike wanted to use to witch hunt the governor or to make sure the governor is always being held at ransom.
Okay,
this was the whole thing.
Interject you there. You have been saying FCT Minister Nyesom Wike. Is this about the FCT Minister or it's about Constitution as the lawmakers are proceeded?
This is not anything concerning Constitution. Let's be very honest with ourselves. What is going on in Rivers State is pure political witch hunting. Has nothing to do with the Constitution, because if the House of Assembly member today, loyal to Barrister Nyesom Wike, was interested in Nigeria's Constitution, obviously, during the period of the state of emergency, IBAS went further to spend Rivers State money despite Supreme Court injunction. There was a court injunction during sometime last week, and IBAS went further to spend the money without respecting the Nigeria Constitution. So what has stopped the House of Assembly to call IBAS to come and ask IBAS how he spent Rivers State money, even when there was a court injunction by the Supreme Court not to touch Rivers State resources? They are not talking about it. So what do we talk about Constitution? When Mr. President declared a state of emergency in Rivers State beyond Nigeria Constitution and then suspend a democratically elected governor, what happened? At the same time, Nyesom Wike was there. Nyesom Wike, the House of Assembly member, they didn't do anything about it. They allowed this process to continue, and every process continued to today. They have not talked about it. They didn't do anything about it, and then we are talking about Constitution. This has nothing to do with Constitution, because the issue we have on ground right now is that Nyesom Wike want His Excellency Fubara to actually submit a supplementary bill that will amount to 400-something billion, upon which Nyesom Wike will give each of the assembly members that are loyal to him 15 billion.
Thank you so much.
All right. All right, Biola. All right. Biola, I must say thank you.
The comrade, always a comrade.
Biola, many thanks. We appreciate you for that. Let me come to you, Evans and Mr. Ige. You've heard from the respondent there with our correspondent, Biola Festus. And it seems like Governor Fubara is in between the devil and the deep blue sea. If it does too much. If it doesn't do enough. What are his options at this point? Let me come to you, Evans, and then Mr. Ige.
Well, his option is he has to stay resolute, because the impeachment itself will collapse, because it's coming under its own contradiction. All the allegations raised so far, they are not plausible. They are orchestrated by influences, okay? And these influences are influences that the State House of Assembly members tend to benefit from. It is pecuniary, okay? Wike wants to use the force of Rivers State the way he likes. You know, at the end of the day, it is the people that are affected. So I will urge Fubara to stand with the people. I will urge Fubara to stand with the people, because what these lawmakers and Wike they are trying to do is to deprive the people of good governance, to take their resources away and free time. That's exactly what Wike wants to do. Okay, and the duty of a governor is to ensure that he defends his state, and then defends his constituency, and ensure that he brings good governance to the people of Rivers State, even if it means him losing that seat.
All right. Let me quickly bring Mr. Ige, your final thoughts. Ige, 30 seconds. What options does he have?
Well, for me, I strongly believe that, it's still an allegation. And after the panel has sat and he has given his own response, he still has the right of going to court to challenge whatever decisions if he feels that there's an element of bias. And above all, the people of Rivers State should put the interest of the people at heart, as opposed to politicking, because as a matter of fact, Fubara has not been able to achieve anything as a result of this politicking and back and forth. And I think we should put this to an end and put it to a rest. Let's test our laws and see how this comes out.
Let's test our laws and see how this comes out. We hope for fairness as it plays out. Gentlemen, I must say thank you to Todimu Ige as well as Evans Ufeli, both legal practitioners in and outside the country, giving us insight following the proceedings of impeachment of the Rivers State Governor and his deputy.